Thank you for joining, dear viewers. You're watching OBN Horn of Africa. This is weekly program Future Africa, and I am Fantam Belete hosting the program. In this episode, we're going to talk about peace and stability in the African continent. My guest today is John Peter Ukuru, PhD candidate of environmental conflict and sustainability, who joins me from Ghana. Originally, John Peter is from Nigeria. John Peter, thank you for joining and welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pantahu, for hosting me.
Would you introduce yourself to our viewers, please?
Okay, thank you very much. Like you said, my name is John Peter Okoro, and I'm from Nigeria. My first degree is on criminology and security studies, and then I've been a scholar. After that, I went for master's in peace and conflict resolution, and then I have gone for other masters like in development management. And after that, I am currently doing a PhD in environmental conflict and sustainability. So I have been focusing in the area of crime studies, conflict, security, and peace building in Africa.
Why has West Africa had so many coups, and how have externals been interfering?
West Africa has been embroiled in the menace of coup d'etat because of many factors, ranging from extreme greed to foreign interest in abundant natural resources in the sub-region. One thing I want you to know is that it has been an issue, like age-long problem, because after independence, the former colonies of France were forced into agreement of paying colonial tax for the benefit of slavery and colonization. After independence, 14 French-speaking countries signed 11 deleterious agreements with France. Based on this colonial pact, France has been guarding or kind of being in possession or protecting, the way they put it, the financial result of 14 African countries since 1961. These African countries are Benin, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, Mali, Niger, Senegal, Togo, Cameroon, and the rest. This is why in the last 50 years, a record shows that a total of 67 coups happened in 26 countries in Africa. So 16 of them are French ex-colonies, which means 61%, or even more than that, 1% of the coups happened in Francophone Africa. However, because of the abundant resources in these countries, we can look at issues like nations such as Russia, US, China, coming, promising to help, in quotes, help. So they're trying to show that they can actually help these countries to get out of this age-long pact with France, And what happened is that while all these interest groups are coming in, more insurgencies are also erupting in these areas, which are the reasons for the coup that we hear or happen every day.
Do you think that there are specific reasons why coups are becoming a solution to come to power in most countries in Africa?
When we look at a lot of issues, especially in West Africa in particular, coup seems to be the only option the downtrodden can explore to us governments that are not obeying their side of social contract. Since governments are supposed to belong to the people want to really own them. I mean, they want to own the government. They want the government, to belong to them. They voted, and they want the government to actually obey the social contract. They want the government to listen to them, ensuring the government is accountable, transparent, and responsive. So once these are not in place, the people get frustrated. The next you see is agitations everywhere, protests, and other vices. So once the military, this group of people who are protesting, are able to convince the military, of course, many soldiers are still sufferers. When it comes to all these problems, they are also at the receiving end, seeing how soldiers are dying on a daily basis. You see, they also try to exploit the opportunity. And once they are convinced, the next is that you see coup ensues. And of course, the interest start coming from external sources.
After the Cold War, a neoliberal democratic program was introduced to the African politics, and it promised to free the continent from authoritarianism and military seizures of power. Has it worked?
Pantao, you see, in Africa, what we have, though, we've been describing it as a democracy, but it is somehow alien to African system. Yes, the neoliberal democratic program was introduced to the African politics after the Cold War. Yeah, that's true. But as you can see, the coups and counter coups in the continent are testament that the program is just decorative in nature. So the governments are not delivering based on the tenet of liberal pluralism, in which democracy is anchored. So what is experienced here is a form of impunity, marginalization, socioeconomic torture, electoral manipulations against the will of the people. And above all, the foreign interest on those who they want to impose they are interested in to rule us. In fact, the West is ensuring that handicaps dominate our leadership system, to ensure that they continue to gain, continue to extract, continue to enjoy the natural resources in Africa to the impairment of Africa and Africans. For instance, the current coup in Niger is underpinned by insecurity, economic problems, and the age-long France ideological domination. If we look at the way everything is happening, in those areas, we have many insurgents who are on daily basis massacring people. Even when we look at issues like the ECOWAS in West Africa, this regional institution is not helping matter, because a lot of all these insecurities, while people are looking at it to be an issue, the democracy is not solving it. And people are now looking at a way to solve their own problem. So the democracy imported, there is a problem with it.
You have mentioned the reasons why coups are becoming solution to come to power in most parts of Africa. You have been talking about this. Then, do you think that this coming to power through coups invites a reassessment of neoliberal democratic project in Africa?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There is the need to reassess the neoliberal democratic project in Africa, especially considering its Western colonization. So it's being colonized by Western ideology. See, it is true that the people, particularly the downtrodden, celebrate as a show of support to successful coups, as we see in the case of Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and other places. The downtrodden people, ordinary people, come to the street and begin to, celebrate that democracy has been, soldiers have taken over power, and they are now seeing that their problem will be solved. However, seizing power through coup d'etat is not what we need. Rather, we need redesigning the democracy we practice. We need to factor in African cultural values. We need to strengthen institutions. And above all, we need to throw away ethno-religious politics in Africa, which is one of the major problems.
What do you think can be done to prevent more coups from happening?
Yeah, to prevent future coups, like I said before, we need to redesign and reposition our own type of democracy, ensuring effective electioneering process. So the people's vote should be able to count. Qualified but young, vibrant leaders should be given the opportunity to contest. There should be a sort of confidence building that will reassure the citizens that the government is really for them. They should be less dependent on the Western dictatorship. Like, the case in Nigeria, for instance, the youth gathered and they tried to see how they can change the old people that have been governing Nigeria. So after gathering, after they have voted, what you see was a different result, and which has been an issue, and court issues have been going on because of this very problem. So actually, to prevent coups, we need to redesign our own democracy to suit African context. Yeah.
Political transitions in Ethiopia and Sudan offered the promise of more democratic, civilian-led governments and increased regional stability in the Horn of Africa. So my question is, why is still Sudan having instability then?
Yeah, in fact, when you look at what is happening in Sudan, it is still the same thing happening in most of the African countries, even though the one of Sudan has lasted for a long time and comes with a lot of issues, like many humanitarian issues around it. I think the political instability in Sudan, which is a North African nation, it hovers around issues of leadership struggle, issues of ethnicity, natural resources governance, and corruption. The democratic transition that started in 2019 was derailed by issues of military interference, economic crisis, and global supply shocks. These factors have made it difficult for Sudan to achieve a kind of stable civilian-led government. And what happened after that is unfortunate that the new crisis submerged the whole idea, and the nations, there was a kind of negotiations, and this negotiation was done to ensure that there will be a kind of formal and a peaceful transition. Unfortunately, the negotiation excluded former rebels and others. So, an armed conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Force, which is RSF, the rival faction of the military government of Sudan. This problem, again, because of the problem of not including these very people, because there was a plan to incorporate this RSF into the national military. Unfortunately, this was not done. Unfortunately, during this negotiation, there were less consultations, there were less kind of stakeholder inclusiveness. And what we are now seeing is a relapse into conflict, which erupted in 15th April 2023. To me, if they will look at it very well, it will be easier to incorporate these very two military, because even RSF was formed by al-Bashir. So if al-Bashir, who has been ousted, is no longer there, then what happened to this very paramilitary group? The only way is to integrate it and then have one Sudanese army forces to avoid this relapse into. If not, any other effort may be an issue. You can see the consequence everywhere. We're already having a lot of deaths. Over 4,000 people might have been killed since this started in April. In the recent effort by Sudan's neighbors, as well as the US and Saudi Arabia, to resolve the power struggle in Sudan, have so far failed. Yeah. However, the expanded mechanism, which was established to coordinate and harmonize regional, continental, and sort of international effort in support of a peaceful resolution in Sudan. So this third meeting on the 27th May 2023 at Peace and Security Council Summit in Ethiopia, the United Nations and the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, which is IGAD, have expressed their commitment to this process. By promising, their commitment, they try to promise that there's going to be a sort of bottom-up approach to solving the problem that is allowing an all-inclusive process that will be owned by the people of Sudan. However, the situation in Sudan, when we look at what is happening currently, you see that the situation is still very volatile. And of course, when we look at it critically, you see the violence is still very high, as forces loyal to two rival generals are battling for control of the country, creating humanitarian catastrophe. In fact, the conflict poses threats to the surrounding countries, especially Chad and Ethiopia. So noting it is now just about 3 months after the meeting was held, and of course 5 months after the new eruption of conflict, it may be too early to say that or to judge the success or failure of these institutions in fostering peace in Sudan.
On the expanded mechanism for a resolution of the conflict in Sudan, IGAD convened its third meeting in Ethiopia with the United Nations. In their meeting, they delivered statements expressing their commitment to fostering peace in Sudan. Do you think that these institutions are succeeding?
It is just 3 months after that meeting, as we speak now, and also the fact that the conflict in Sudan is still very volatile, and they're still having a lot of uprootment. So a lot of internally displacement and refugees, those who are crossing border. It is still an issue. So we cannot say that that institution is achieving the aims by fostering peace in Sudan for now, because it is too early. Yeah.
How do you see the overall peace and stability in the Horn of Africa and in African continent in general?
We see that there is an issue with Africa, and that has been an age-long issue when we talk about conflict. So Africa is indeed a continent with a diverse range of insecurity and peace situations. So the African continent actually is particularly conflict prone and has hosted more than one-fourth of global violent conflict. It is a truism that both internal and international interventions for peace building have been ongoing for a long time. However, challenges related to insurgency movement, Islamic groups, and the conflict have continued to heighten. In the case of East Africa, we have Al-Shabaab, which have been struggling to take over most of the states. It's been fighting in Somalia for a long time, and of course has tried to launch attack in places like Uganda, Ethiopia, and other states within the Horn of Africa. Actually, when we talk about Al-Shabaab in East Africa, we talk of the case in West Africa. For instance, Boko Haram, which has been ravaging the northeastern part of Nigeria. This has been an issue since 2009, and in fact, a lot of people have been killed and a lot of displacement. We've had a lot of refugees who have moved into other countries because of the problem. And the latest is Islamic West African province, ISWAP, which is actually linked to ISIS. In it has been a problem in West Africa for a long time. This very group, I think, to some point, had issue with Boko Haram based on ideology, and in fact, ISWAP is more having ground in Nigeria now than Boko Haram. So when we look at other places in within, even in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Chad, all these insurgents have been having, their own turn in some of these places. In fact, based on current statistics, we can say that there are about 6.1 million displaced people in sub-Saharan Africa. In fact, let me add that insecurity is one of the precipitators of coups in the West African context. For instance, since 2015, Burkina Faso has been battling an escalating wave of violence attributed to rebel fighters that has allied to both Al-Qaeda and ISIS. This has been happening. The groups are well armed, and they have been claiming hundreds of lives and displacing many people. In fact, more than millions of people have been displaced in this area. This is the same in Mali, Niger, and other places. And because of some of these things, people see government as having issue of protecting the people from all these insurgents, which are the reasons sometimes the soldiers try to interrupt the democratic government in West Africa.
Dear our esteemed viewers, this is the end of the first episode of our discussion with John Peter Okoro. Thank you for watching, and do not forget to watch the second episode. Till then, bye-bye.